hating everybody in existence. Came to get it all, you see the writing on the wall. If I'm Naruto in the water, I'm Sasuke before the fall. Luffy after the hockey, I'm Zoro drinking the sake. Try to fight me, I get Brocky like we Spiros and Brawley. You gon' need the HMs, the TM.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Blerdkast, and welcome back to RSP Week. This is the week dedicated to nothing but Power Rangers, RangerStop Pop Atlanta, RangerStop Pop Orlando, and everything that we have come to know and love with the franchise Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and beyond. And today, I am glad to have back on the channel probably the person responsible for the entire visual look of Power Rangers, doing his shtick. Please welcome back visual effects artist Rick Shick.
Hey, thanks for the kind intro.
Oh, well, first of all, just thank you for making me the nerd I am. I didn't know, like watching Power Rangers as a kid, I didn't know, like, it wasn't real. And then, like, as I got older and I started to learn more about production work and more about visual effects, VFX, more about just acting in general, and then falling in love with like production work, which is why I do what I do now. You have a lot to do with that. So just thank you for making me the gentle nerd that I am and making me a beast behind the camera. You affected so many people growing up. And
well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because usually as visual effects artists, we have no idea, or we have a very little idea. And so it's super, super sweet to hear. Nice of you to say. And I know that there are things that did that for me too. I remember seeing like a making of Star Wars when I was a kid, because I was a kid when Star Wars first came out. It was actually just called Star Wars. And I'm like, wait a minute, they didn't go to those planets? Like what are you talking about? Like, I don't even want to see it. I don't want to see that it's not real. I've changed my tune since I was a little kid, because now I want to see everything that's behind the scenes. But yeah, but when I was, in elementary school, it was like, I don't want to know. I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me that. Don't tell me it wasn't real. I don't want to hear that.
But for me, for us, for the people who grew up watching Power Rangers, that was real. When they're sitting there going Tyrannosaurus, Red Dragon, Thunderzord power, that's all you. You animated the puppets. I've been having fun like just researching you over the last couple of weeks. But you took the Thunderzords and made them into puppets and shot them on the screen and had like a painted mountain in the background and mountains in the foreground. Yep. None of it looked like Japan, but we're going to get into all that though. Where did you get started in VFX? Or let's go back a little bit further. Where did it all begin for you? Let's dive
I would say
your story.
It definitely started with Ray Harryhausen, and the summer that Clash of the Titans came out. That just blew me away as a kid. And my best friend lived next door. He and I could walk to the theater. It was maybe, 2 miles from our house or so. It was a little bit of a hike. I can't believe our parents let us do it, but we would walk alongside the highway for the final part, get to the theater, and it was $1. And so we just bring $1 and we just basically sit there. We watch it because they wouldn't kick us out. I was just blown away by the stop motion animation in it. I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't see it enough to just try to even think of, oh my gosh, how did they do that? Because like the Medusa, especially in that, where it's the dark lighting, it's the flickering torches, and it's on her. And I know she's not real. I know she's not a person in a costume. And like that body, that snake body, that like as a kid, it's like, okay, I know that's not a human, but it's moving like a human and a creature. And like, it was just so believable to me. And I'm like, whoa, that is just the height of artistry as far as I was concerned. And so, yeah, it definitely started with that. I know in college, I liked I like tons of movies. I was a big fan of movies. Evil Dead 2 had a big impact on me in that it was, for one, hilarious movie and scary at the same time. It had both. The first one was just scary. The second one was scary and hilarious. Like there's maybe a little bit of funny in the first one, but man, the second one, they just cranked up the slapstick humor, which I adore. And then I found out, oh, it's Sam Raimi. It's a guy from Michigan. And it's like, oh man, a guy from Michigan can make movies. He's not in Hollywood. I'm from Michigan. Maybe I can make movies. I don't know. Like, I can see what happens. So then that was kind of in my head as I went through college. And then there was a turning point when I got a Cinefex magazine, the first one I ever saw, before RoboCop 2. And RoboCop 2 had just astonishing stop motion animation of the big robot guy. I definitely saw that movie more than once in the theater because, I mean, the movie was okay. I feel like it wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still a fairly solid movie. And the effects were just next level with the giant cane robot and him fighting RoboCop. It was awesome. So I just devoured that Cinefex to read a magazine. Oh my gosh, they explain how they do all this. So that's when I really turned that it's like, I think I need to go to Hollywood. If I want to make movies and, I don't know anything about it, I got to go to Hollywood. And so that's what turned it and made me realize California is a place for me.
Now on the live, you told us the story of when you got to California. You were there for about a year or so before you started working at the production house that eventually led you to working on season 2 of Power Rangers.
Yeah. I spent, so I went to California and I spent some time as a casting assistant at Roger Corman's studio. So I actually worked on the very, very first Fantastic Four movie that didn't come out in 1994. But then, that really didn't lead to anything for me. I guess I wasn't pushy enough. I didn't know what to do when I was in the office to try to say, hey, I want to do other stuff. So, I guess I learned to be pushier after that.
Right.
But then I spent about a year and a half or so trying to peddle my reel, or not even a reel, my resume and my portfolio to different studios. And the studio called Modern Video Film, I heard from a producer at Paramount that I had met. He's like, I know this place, Modern Video Film. They have some kids show and they're going to need more artists. So go give them a shot. So that was my foot in the door there. So I went with my portfolio and I actually had a carousel of slides as well. Because back then you never knew if someone had a slide projector, you just plop down the carousel, you could go through your artwork, which just sounds, at this point in time, sounds ludicrous, but that's the way it was. So yeah, so I was a good enough artist that even though I had no experience, because everyone else was saying, well, yeah, you got some nice stuff, but let us know once you've worked on something, then come back. It's like, well, how does that work? Like, how do I start? So Modern Video Film was the first place. I said, yeah, we can, we'll do a short internship, and if it works out, then we'll hire you for real. And so very quickly they hired me because they saw I could do, what they needed to have done.
Did you go to art school or college to learn VFX?
I did not go to school to learn VFX. I did go to art school. I went to the University of Michigan and I have a dual major. I studied art history because that seemed to be the closest thing to art where I could maybe have a career, and I've had no career in art history. But it seems like maybe people who work at museums make money, but I don't know that artists make money. Like, you got to be Van Gogh and dead, and then finally you're making money. Like, that doesn't sound great. I was too scared to just be an artist. But while I was at college, I kept taking art classes on the side to the point where I took so many art classes. I'm like, if I just stay one extra year, I can get 2 degrees. So I could get a Bachelor of Arts in Art History and a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a concentration in figurative sculpture, because that's what I like the most.
Right.
So I did not study film. There was no school for visual effects back then in the 90s. There was nowhere to go. You go to Hollywood and you start working somewhere. You start bringing someone coffee, and then eventually you can work into weasel your way. We always call it weasel your way into whatever you want to be doing. Right.
Wow. It reminds me of a little bit of what I had to go through once I left art school, but we had CDs to put our work on, not giant carousels of slides, but I remember those. Let's talk about Power Rangers. I know that's what a lot of my fans who are watching really want to talk to you about, but I must point this out. You have done so much more than just Power Rangers, and we're going to get into all that too, but everybody knows you for working on Power Rangers. Everybody knows that you're just one of many VFX artists that were behind the scenes, that were creating the visual effects that we're eating up as kids. What was that experience like for you working with the production house and working with Saban on season 2 and beyond of Power Rangers?
Yeah, you know what? I look back at it very fondly. We had the most fun. Our boss was very keen on pushing whatever we wanted to do because as visual effects artists, as artists, we wanted to try different stuff. We wanted to do 2D animation. We wanted to do stop motion. We wanted to do puppetry. And there was a whole lot of drawing energy effects. And if we could layer some live action element into the energy effect, he was all for it. And so it was a very, very creative time. And like the ability to explore what you wanted to explore as an artist. I don't think I've been able to do that to that degree ever since Power Rangers. And a big part of it was Saban didn't care. As a client, Saban was our client, and we would do the production facility would do the editing. They would do the sound design. They would do the final mix of everything, and they do the visual effects. Visual effects, they were like in the script, it would just say, monster appears, monster disappears. Tommy appears, Tommy disappears. Tommy gets his brain scanned. Like they don't know. They don't know what it's going to look like. They don't have a clue, and they didn't care because I guess with the first season, they must have trusted the team enough that by the time I came on, it was just, like who has an idea? Let's make something up. And so that made it super fun. And, we're young men in LA. It was a really good time. We worked at night when I started. It was the night shift that would work on Power Rangers. During the day, they would have much, much bigger, more important clients in the office. At night, it was just us, but they still had all these editing bays. So there would be some clients at night, not exactly where we were, but in other parts of the building. So there was a food service that would go on at night. Mm-hmm. So we'd come to work, and an hour later, it would be dinner time. And, we go through the buffet, and, sometimes it was okay. Sometimes it wasn't that great, but it was free. It's like, great, a free meal. So then we'd take our food, we'd go to the main room, we'd sit down, pop in one of the upcoming episodes because we'd have the edited episodes before they aired, before the effects were put in it. And we just watch it to see what the heck's going on. And sometimes the audio would be there, sometimes it wouldn't be there. And we'd just be making up lines for everyone as we're watching it, just cracking each other up. The creativity, the freedom that we had to be creative was just out of the world. It was so much fun. We had such a good time working on that show.
Now, oh my God, such a nerd story right there. I wish I could have been there to experience that with you.
What's funny is if you had been in Burbank at that time, we would go, I forget, is it like Tuesday is New Comic Book Day? My buddies I was into comic books somewhat. I kind of lost it with the Spider-Man clone story that just pissed me off. And I'm like, I'm done. I can't even handle this anymore. This Ben Parker is ridiculous. So, but my buddies were into comic books a lot bit more than I was. But I would go with on our lunch hour. We'd go to the comic book store once a week. Sometimes we'd just go to Toys R Us and just see what are the because I like to sculpt. It's like, what are the latest toys coming out? What do they look like? And we'd be in Toys R Us, and someone like you who's watching the show maybe would be next to us. We're like, hey, kid, stay in school because someday you can buy any of these toys you want. Because that's what we were doing. Like, we could just buy any of the toys we want.
Right.
It was awesome. It was lots of fun.
No, that does sound so awesome. Now, you said you came on season 2 of Power Rangers, so they already had a stylized look for the show, like how they morph, their teleporting sequences, and things like that. What was one of the first sequences you remember working on for Power Rangers, and how did you help improve the visual effects from season 1? Because there's a story I heard before we came on that I want you to get into. What was some of the visual effects that were carried over, and what did you improve upon?
Sure. Well, I guess we'll see if if I hit what you're looking for.
Okay.
So when I started, one of the reasons they hired me was because I had sculptures in my portfolio. So they already knew for season 2, and I didn't know this. They knew for season 2, when the putties got hit in the chest, they were going to break apart. And so they figured, hey, this guy can sculpt. He can do the stop motion animation of the putties. He can sculpt the putties and do the animation for us. Because the other 2 guys were super busy doing all the other effects. And so they're like, it was a way of divvying up the work. So I didn't know that was the plan, but when I came in and they're like, okay, we need you to sculpt these. And I'm thinking, oh man, I get to sculpt something just like Ray Harryhausen. Of course, way less time and way smaller budget. So the sculptures are very simple, very simplistic, but it was really fun because we get the footage and it would already be edited where, you know, like the putty is fighting a ranger if you're the camera, and the putty's backing up and he gets kicked in the chest and then he goes like this, and then they cut and then there's nothing, right? So they edit those two pieces of film against each other, and then I would take that film. It was digitized onto a digibeta, a giant blue tape, and then that way we could put it in the computer. So in the computer, I could play it one frame at a time, and we had a projector called the Manipulator 3000 that was for doing animation, and it was a downward-facing camera facing at a glass plane, and you could put whatever you wanted on the glass. You could put things under the glass. So we would put green under the glass, and then I could look at a monitor that was showing what the camera was seeing and would overlay it with the footage. So I could line the putty up to the actor putty. So if the actor putty is right here, I could take my clay putty and line him up so that he matched over green. And then I could click a frame of it and then move it a little bit, you know, start to tear the arms apart. And one of the things that was really fun, and we'd get like maybe 15, 20 frames, like under a second of footage that we were allowed to do because we wanted to do more. We wanted to make it big and elaborate, but things got to keep moving, right? So you're only so many frames. So the longer it went on, the more we tried, or I tried, because I was doing most of, I think I did about 95% of the putties, and Trent Shumway did some at some point when I was working on other stuff. But at the beginning, I did all the putty break. I wanted them to emote. I'm like, well, they're actors, wanted to act. So sometimes if there were two putties, they would kind of like look at each other as they're breaking apart and be like, oh, like sometimes they'd reach out to each other. One time a putty rolled out of a scene and he left his arm behind. And as he went out of frame, he reached back to grab his arm because we had to clear a frame. So we're just like looking for creative ways to clear the frame, you know, to do whatever the objective was. The objective is clear the frame. I don't just want to have like pop and things go out of frame. I want it to be doing something fun, you know, like something that makes it more interesting for me. So that was really cool. That was some of the first stuff I did. The very early on, so there's the putties, and the first big scene that I remember being a part of was the Dragon Zord to Thunder Zord sequence, where you had mentioned that. I was one of the people who turned the toys into puppets. I only did one of them. I did the Unicorn Thunder Zord, wherever he is. And I still have that Unicorn Thunder Zord that was in the show. And that's something that will be at RangerStop and Pop, that people can take pictures with the actual Zords that were in that transformation sequence. But that was tons of fun. We made a mountain range, and I had an idea, like it was up to me to decide how to do the mountain range. So I thought, I think it might be easy if we go to where there's a hill and there's a bunch of dirt, maybe we dig a trench, spray some expanding foam in the trench, pull it out, we'll have a ready-made mountain.
Right.
It just looked like a big piece of poop covered in rocks. So it didn't work at all, but that was the base. And then I did a lot of sculpting on top of that. And I'd go to, there's a local train place, a train store, a model train store. Great place called Allied Model Trains. And it was in a miniature, the building was a miniature copy of the Los Angeles train station. Really, really fun place. It since had moved across the street, and I don't know if it exists anymore or not. It was a shame when it moved because it was just perfect being in the miniature LA train station. But I would buy like Fuller's Earth and little trees and, you know, little bags of stuff that's supposed to look like grass, and that, well, you know, I'd set dress the miniature mountain range with that stuff. And shooting that was lots of fun because it was lots of layers that we were shooting in camera. And then then there was morphing on top of that, an actual morph that I believe our boss is the guy who did the actual morphing. And then electricity at the end over the top, which is like back then, that was Trent Shumway. He would have drawn the electricity for that. So it's really cool stuff to like have all these different things coming together and to work on all this stuff like on a very small scale because it wasn't a big movie, but we were doing, you know, so many different disciplines at the same time in the same place. You know, to be able to do that was just killer. It was awesome.
Wow, That does sound super amazing. Like the more you talk, the more I'm just like, oh, I wish I could just be there now as you're talking, just to watch you guys like work your magic behind the camera. So you mentioned the lightning effects and all those things. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie you went to go see when you were
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We got to go to the
the Power
premiere.
Rangers trailer and there was like more better graphics and you just nerded out to that?
That was slightly different in the when not at the movie premiere, but going to see there was a Dragonheart. Going to see the movie Dragonheart was the first time I went to a theater where in the lobby they had put TV screens up around just to show commercials and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there was a commercial for, and maybe this was between season 2 and 3, or maybe was there like a 2.5 and 3? But there was a commercial came on for Power Rangers, and we're like, oh hey, it's our show. That's kind of fun to see this here. But then they're saying, you know, better stories, more explosions, and they're like better effects, and we're like, that's us. We're better effects. We were so excited. It's almost like they mentioned us by name.
I can only imagine that's awesome for you. I just know that feeling when you work on something and then you see that recognition and you're just like, I did that, and no one else knows you.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. And I think when they were saying that, or somewhere like near that, it was a yellow Ranger in the sparkly metal costume. So this was post movie, right? Because I think after the movie, they got their metallicized costumes.
We will not talk about that.
Yeah, okay. So they had but it was a Yellow Ranger on top of like a bus, and the Yellow Ranger like jumps up, and then I had done like this effect to like shoom to shoot the Ranger toward the camera toward one of the bird guys, one of the Tengus, and like kick him in the chest. And so like there's this like really fast cut between the Ranger up on high and then the Ranger down low kicking the dude in the chest. And I had done the in-between part to blend those two together and make it look like the Ranger like got snapped like a rubber band and slammed into the guy. So I was very excited. I'm like, hey, that's my effect. That's on the commercial.
That is awesome. Now, since you brought up the movie, there's this one clip from the movie. That whole movie had a lot of issues. I know you didn't work on the 95 movie, but you were working on the series at the time. What were your thoughts of how they did the visual effects of the movie, and why didn't they bring in your production house? Were they trying to do something new?
Okay, so I think there's two reasons why we didn't work on the movie. One, we were super busy working on the show.
Okay.
You know, like what is it? Like The Last of Us will have 6 episodes in a season, maybe 8, whatever they are, if you're lucky, and they'll be years apart. Yeah. So nowadays, a season is nothing. Back then, a season was 60 episodes because it was 5 new episodes a week.
Right.
That's what we were cranking out. And there wasn't at that point, I think, by then, we were probably already working on VR Troopers, probably working on Beetleborgs. I mean, it was crazy, the throughput of the work that we had to do. I doubt anyone had such a huge turnaround as far as, you know, just sheer numbers of shows. In the second season alone, we hit episode number 100, you know, and that's usually like a big mile marker for many seasons. It's like, oh my gosh, like, wow, we finally hit 100 episodes. And we're like, yeah, 100 episodes just zipped right by because there's 5 a week.
Right.
So one, we were busy, and I'd say 2, back then there was a huge segregation of TVs over here, movies over here. If you work on TV, you're not good enough to work on movies. They are 2 separate entities. Now that line is completely blurred. They're very similar to one another. It's just a matter of how much money they're spending, but there is no longer a stigma of, oh, you worked on TV. Well, you know, you're not good enough for our movie now. So that was like a hurdle that you had to jump. I'd say in the industry back then, in your career, it was a transition that you had to work hard to make to go from TV to movies. And it's funny too, because we weren't allowed to work on the first movie. And I thought the first movie, like I went to the premiere and I thought, you know, I was excited to go. I'm like, you know, this is a big fun thing. We don't get to do much. There was like a carnival in the parking lot. Saban had a big deal for their first movie. And I thought the movie was pretty fun. I'm like, oh, it's not bad. The teleports in the movie were terrible. The first time they teleported in the movie, we're like the row of us visual effects artists, we're just like, oh my gosh. Because we could have done a better version. Like, we could have done it better. Like, why? Why did they get to do such a bad? Like, we do it for free just to have it not be so bad. But like, we didn't know the right people, and our boss wasn't able to get us the work because you're the TV guys. Man, the teleports were terrible. There was some really good stuff. There was some fun stuff. There was some okay stuff, like the Tengu fighting turning into CG stuff. It doesn't hold up as well as it could today, but it's not bad. It's not horrible. It wasn't horrible for the time. The end fight, I think, is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I also was looking at it not from a kid's point of view. Like, I couldn't accept that. That's not, this is just not doing it for me. But like the giant T-Rex puppet that Billy rode around on for a little bit.
Yeah.
I loved it. That was awesome to have a huge puppet in the show. I thought that was totally cool. So by the second movie, the Turbo movie, they considered us for visual effects. And so we did a test, and this is something that on my show Behind the Power, at some point, I have the footage of it. I must have done the test because I have the footage of it. I don't remember doing it. Maybe someone can always correct me. If I get something wrong, it's 30 years ago. So someone can always correct me if I get something wrong. I have no problem saying, yeah, I didn't really remember. I'm thinking I did this. So the fact that I have the footage makes me think I did the effect, because I don't know why I'd have it if I didn't do the effect. Usually the reels that I kept are my own work. And so that's the only thing that makes me think I did it, because it's not my memory. So let's just pretend I did it. Okay. But there's a part where the little furry guy like heals someone's leg. Maybe Kimberly or someone had a cut on their leg. But in the movie, so we just knew that someone was getting their leg healed by a finger going like this. And we did a nice little subtle effect and like we painted a wound on someone's leg. I believe it was our coordinator. We used her for the stand-in. And we comped it into a background scene of a jungle and added a finger, and and I did like a little warping on the cut and a little energy on top of it. So we figured out, so we did a version, and I thought it looked pretty nice. It was, fine. It was Power Rangery, and we didn't get the job. They didn't give us the job to work on the movie. And then we went to see the movie, and compared to the first movie, this was worse than the TV show. Like, the whole thing, they did worse effects than the TV show. So like when the little furry guy is doing his little rant and some energy flies off him, they're doing some particle, and we were doing particle stuff. At that point, we're doing particle work on Beetleborgs, where the computer would generate, you could pick a point, put it in space, in 3D space in the computer, and it would generate little bits of energy. And so it was particle generation, and we do it for a bunch of different effects. So that's what they did in the movie, but like, it wasn't really lined up to anything. It just kind of go anywhere, and it was big, and it was over the whole screen. There was nothing subtle about it. There was horrible compositing of layers of like clouds or ocean in some of the scenes that just didn't line up and didn't track with the camera. It was way worse than what we had done in the TV show for the second movie. That was astonishing. That was really insulting.
I have to agree to that 100%. I saw the first movie and I'm like, oh, this is great, amazing. I was a little dumb kid, but as I got older, especially when the Turbo movie came out, I was like, oh my God, this is worse than the show. How could you do this? I don't think I ever finished watching a Turbo movie every time I've watched it, just because, like, it's hard to get through. Like, the 93 movie is less dated than the Turbo movie that came out years later.
No, the 93 movie, they threw a bunch of money at it, and they spent most of it really well. You spend your money well, you get a good looking movie.
Right. Well, okay. So there is this one thing I want to bring up about the 93 movie, and you mentioned it, the final fight, which is obviously the big Zord fight.
Yeah.
The Zord in the movie and the Zord in the TV show don't look the same, and I guess because it's all CG and they just had an idea of what it was supposed to look like while you actually had the actual props from Bandai to use. The ape, when the ape transformed and the hand just clips out from the back, I didn't know what that was at the time, but my kid brain was like, something's wrong there. Or like the close up of Kimberly in the crane Zord. And I'm like, why is these bits of green around the edge of the Zord in the window? Like, I didn't know what I was seeing as a kid, but now I understand they did a terrible job.
Yeah, that last fight's not good. The CG animation, like there are just springs that are just springing for no reason. Everything is one big flat lighting. So like something inside that you're supposed to be looking inside the Zord, it's just as bright as day, but it's dark out.
Right.
I feel like maybe they ran out of time. Usually the best effects in a movie that you get to work on are at the beginning because you have more time.
Right.
So whatever effects you start first, those tend to be really good. And sometimes they get really polished because then they'll be used as reference for other effects in the show. But when you're near the end and you've like, oh, this sequence still isn't working. Like that's when people start going crazy. And maybe that's what happened to them. Maybe that's what happened to, I believe it was Boss Film did that because they usually do a really good job. The city that they built, there was a live miniature city that they built. That was great. But the CG that they laid over the top of it, that was not good at all.
Yeah. And I get it. It was the 90s. It was back during the whole CGI 3D animation craze.
Like, just do two guys in suits. Like, people in suits. Like, I don't know why that formula, they decided to not do it. I guess they figure it's too much effort, too much time. I don't know if it'd be more or less money. I guess it just depends. But it would definitely probably take more time. Definitely, probably. I don't know if those go together. It would definitely take more time to shoot it with real people in suits and to make the suits and to set everything up, to have a big enough city for people with suits in it. You could have a smaller city since you're doing CG, but it felt like it deserved it.
No, I agree.
Deserved guys in suits.
No, I agree. I don't understand. You're right. I don't understand why Hollywood pushed the CGI computer generation effects more. Like, yeah, I guess at the time it would have been cheaper than like practical effects on top of CGI.
It's going to be easier,
right?
Less time involved overall.
I get that, but it doesn't look good and does not hold up. Like, and I'm gonna give you a good comparison. So there's a new Jurassic Park movie coming out, I'm assuming over the summer. I still go back to the 93 movie and I'm like, oh my God, this looks amazing and it still holds up today.
Yeah.
Why? Why does it look so much better than anything that have like come after? The first two look great. Everything else after that, I'm like, no, horribly dated in the time that those movies came out in. And that's every movie now. Stuff from the 80s looks dated, don't get me wrong, but it looks amazing, like puppetry and just like how they used to do practical effects like that, and now they just lazily will let the computer nerd do it, and I'm just like, that's not like always the best thing.
There was more, well, because back then you couldn't always rely on a computer, and even with Jurassic Park, it's like there's only a few minutes that are CG in that movie. It is a very small part of that entire movie. So they relied on a lot of reality, and they had a lot of real awesome puppets that they could use as reference as well. And there was an artistry to make it all work, that they wanted to make it work. And a lot of times now it's just the planning is not there to allow the artistry to get to the level it needs to be at. It's a quicker turnaround. I know that back then they did a whole stop motion of all of those sequences with Phil Tippett animating it all out before they even shot anything. So they made a pre-version, and they'll do that now. They'll have pre-rendered what's that called? Pre-production. They'll do pre-production animatics in CG of a lot of these scenes first to see what they'll look like. But directors have the freedom, because as visual effects artists, we can do anything. Directors have the freedom to change their mind at the last second or even after the last second and say, oh, I think it'd be better like this. Like you set up everything to shoot one way over here. And then after you got it all built and ready to go, the director's like, well, I think the camera should really be over here. And then suddenly you're like got a studio in the background, or like the big lights are showing, or, and it's like, well, yeah, we can fix that later. Can you fix that later? Yeah, we can fix that later.
No.
So you end up spending more time fixing than spending time to make something look excellent.
Right. I hate that. I hate when, like, because I do my own video and photography stuff, and there's people are always like, oh, you can just fix it in post. No, we can fix it now.
Right.
So in post, I can make it look even better versus worrying about having one little small issue. But okay, that's enough ranting about that.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, when the effects are done really well nowadays, you don't even notice. You won't even think, oh, why would that have been an effect? You'll see effects in movies and have no clue that you're looking at visual effects.
True.
Like there are times where like Spider-Man took his mask off and then started talking, and then the director's like, no, I just want him to hold his mask the whole time. And so you have to like remake his head for the part of the scene when he was going like this, and redo his body and make him still look alive and breathing. And you'll have no idea that we did that, So there are a lot of effects that are really well done that you'll never notice, which is basically our goal. But when there's a giant dinosaur running around, it's not real just because.
Right. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the current. I'm sure you never watched the Sentai outside of having to edit the shots together with the American footage and the Japanese footage. But there's this terrible trend in the Sentai where they just got rid of the guy actors in the suits and they just do completely CGI Zords and mech fights. And over time it's gotten better, but when they first started doing this in some of their later series, like in Zenkaiger and Dawn Brothers, it looked terrible. It hurts my eyes watching some of their battles, and now like they're all CGI big battles. They've gotten away from having the suits and the guy just like do practical effects, and I feel like we're losing a bit of like cinematic history when we're just switching over to the computer models. So I did want to just say that. But
yeah, and I mean the 30th anniversary special, right?
Right. Oh, yes. Ooh, please, let's bring that up.
That's such a bummer that it wasn't, it was better CG, but still, it's like, why can't it just be a guy in a suit? Let's have two guys in suits fighting at the end. It'll be fine.
Oh my God. That gave me so much trauma. So there's a scene in that where I'm like, okay, this looks really good. And then they do this transmorph thing into space and the Zords are on the moon. I was like, wait a minute, this looks terrible. Why did in 1 second it's an amazing shot? And I'm like, okay, they rebuilt the Zords. They look weird, but they look okay. And then when they transition, I see all the mistakes. I see everything they were trying to clone. I was like, oh, you could have just got the toys. Once and always traumatized me with that one right there. And then the CGI fight at the end was crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of on brand.
It is.
Unfortunately.
It is, but like, oh my God, Power Rangers is about campiness and cheesiness, and that would have been the perfect moment to bring return of the original Megazord suit that I know is somewhere in storage, and unless they sold it during the auction.
Or make a new one. Yeah, make a new one.
But I do want to ask you, before we move on, like I said, you worked a lot with the Sentai footage. You would have to take American footage of the American actors and whatever they shot and composite it to whatever they're doing in the Sentai. Was that a difficult challenge? Because, even as a kid, I noticed like, hey, that doesn't look like Angeles, California. That looks kind of Tokyo-ish right there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it would just mismatch and it's like nothing you can do. Sometimes we would take the effects. I think when the Gold Ranger appears, there was in the Sentai footage, there was a zippy zappy jumping around like yellowy electricity. And I basically was able to cut that out from the Sentai footage and put it on top of the American footage. And then add some extra niceties to blend it in and add like, so the zippy zappy bit would be from the Sentai, but there'd be like, I think, are they the Machine Empire henchmen? They're like falling down in the background. So I'd kind of line it up so that it would hit where they were pretending to, or well, they were falling, but they'd pretend to be hit. So I'd like line it up with their acting and then add some extra, electricity, hand-drawn electricity on their bodies to just help tie it all together. There were definitely times where we put things together. There was one where some bad guy is like zapping green lasers out of his hands, and I had to match the Japanese bad guy with his green lasers hitting someone in the American footage. And so I drew a version of it, but it fit with the American footage. It didn't look exactly like the Japanese footage. And we actually got a note. Usually we get no notes. It was just, yep, whatever you're doing is great, keep going. But sometimes we get notes and change things. And they said that it didn't match the Japanese enough. It needs to match the Japanese exactly. So at that point, I got a little pissy and I'm like, all right, I'm going to cut the green lasers out of the Japanese footage and put it directly onto the American footage, which is going to look really bad. And I did that. And we sent it off to them and they're like, oh, this looks terrible. And it's like, it's what you asked for. So sometimes you got to give the client what they ask for to show them this isn't what you want. Right. They don't know they don't want that until they see it.
Right.
So then it was like, okay, well, do the first one, but make it better. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I can adjust the first one somewhat, but it'll tie together and they'll feel like they've accomplished something by giving us a note. But their note was ludicrous. And I'm like, this note is stupid. And I'm going to show them how stupid it is. So that's what I did.
That's cool. You worked on many different Saban projects, like Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, and their 2.5 seasons, Mystic Knights. Out of all of the Saban properties, which was your favorite to do VFX for?
Oh yeah, Beetleborgs, number one. The Flabber being a phantasm from the fifth dimension or whatever they said he was. He's like a ghost. He's not a ghost. He's whatever. He's like, I was like, who was he when he was alive on Earth? But whatever Flabber was, it allowed us to make up all sorts of stuff. So that was tons of fun. And by the time Beetleborgs came around, I was no longer just, like the low guy, like the last one in. And so I get like the scraps, or I get, hey, we have this dedicated putty thing for you. I was a lead artist on the show, so I got to help make up a lot of the stuff and like set the direction of what things would look like. And that was so much fun. There's an episode where the little girl, maybe this was season 1 to season 2, I don't know, but the first little girl, Jo, became another actress.
I remember that.
And at the same time, in that episode, Flabber changed into a dragon. So she changed. So Flabber's like, I can be a dragon. And I got to make a live action puppet, which I have right behind the camera. A live action puppet of a dragon. So my friend Rick Cortez did a drawing of the Flabber dragon. And then I sculpted it. I cast it, I molded it, I put an armature inside it, I painted it and got to puppeteer it. And it was awesome. It was a puppet that could stand up and it could go down and the hands could paw the ground and the mouth opened and closed. It was so much fun. And then on top of that, we added CG wings to his back. And one of the artists who did most of the compositing, he made the eyes blink and look around. And we got to go on set, and I was telling the actors, here's going to be the dragon's going to be here. He's going to look this way, and he's going to look that way. And so you need to react. And Like just being involved with every aspect of it pretty much was so much fun. And even like smaller things where there's a point where Flabber like pulls a cord and they wanted to have a train whistle.
Mm.
What's going to happen? Nobody knows. So I decide, all right, his head's going to suck into his body, and I'm going to sculpt like a cartoon looking train whistle, put it on my finger and shoot it and have it just go like shake a little bit like it's blowing. And so his head sucks in, this train whistle comes out, he pulls it, and the whistle tweets, and we had some smoke, added some smoke coming out of it. So it was like goofy. It was goofy fun. And it wasn't like, oh, that train whistle's no good. We got to do, they're just like, yep, great, whatever.
I remember watching all the seasons of Big Bad Beetleborgs and just being amazed at like how much more expressive the visual effects were, how more creative things were. Like you said, Flabber, the things that you had him do, like playing the organ, getting sucked into the organ, all those things were like some really cool, amazing shots that we didn't get like that type of level of VFX in Power Rangers to so many degrees. I mean, we did, like, you can see the bits and pieces like in the earlier seasons, and then you get Big Bad Beetleborgs, like, oh, okay, they learned a lot of tricks in this production house. So Big Bad Beetleborgs was probably, oh my God, I wish it was still around, but I know they ran out of the original source footage to use to make that, but was probably hands down my favorite at the time when it came out, because Turbo was kind of whack. But like Big Bad Beetleborgs, it was kids. They were turning into like Power Ranger robots.
Yeah. Awesome. And there were comic books in it.
Yes.
Everything appearing out of the comic books. That was fun for us to do. Yeah.
And I'm happy for those comic book effects because I love using those like generic comic book effects for all my videos and things. So, you kind of started that trend. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. No, that was totally fun. And I even got to design the words when they would fight in the comic book, and it'd be like bop or crack.
Oh, you did that. You did the
I got to make up what those words looked like.
Oh, so wow.
That was my job.
I do remember in our live stream, you mentioned that in Power Rangers, you guys weren't really on set a lot. You guys just had to take the footage, but you just mentioned the Big Bad Beetleborgs. You were able to go on set.
Yeah. I mean, we went on set when we were needed, which wasn't very frequently. It was needed a little bit more with Beetleborgs just because of the nature of the show being goofier and having more of the visual effects with the American footage of weird things happening, and sometimes they're like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to shoot this? So that's when we would go and help out. But yeah, I mean, it was more on set for that than probably anything else. I remember the VR Trooper set, but I think we were there for some other reason. But I remember walking around the VR Trooper set, and Jeb the dog was like tied to a sandbag, and we're like, oh, poor fella. Like, we're like, but like, is anyone gonna pet this dog? Like, who's taking care of Jeb? Why is no one here?
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. Okay, but I mean, I get it. I've been on set. I get it, but they should have had like a specific trainer for the dog. So just,
I mean, maybe it was just like, maybe they just went to the bathroom for 5 minutes and just happened to be when we were there. I don't know, but he was a very old dog back then. We're like, oh, hey, buddy, how you doing?
Gotcha. Now, once you left not Power Rangers, because you didn't really work for Power Rangers, you just worked for the production company.
Yeah.
But once you left that production house and you started moving on, you got into working into movies and other things like that. You've done visual effects for Spider-Man, The Invisible Man, which I remember when that DVD came out. That was a legendary.
Oh yeah, what the Hollow Man?
Yeah, there you go, Hollow Man. You've done work for I Am Legend, I believe. You've done a lot of work since leaving that production house. So let's talk about you working in the movie industry. You already mentioned that the TV and the film industry were different. Once you made that transition into working in Hollywood, working on bigger productions, what were some of your favorite movies that you worked on, and what are some of the things that you did that we might not know about?
Sure. So Spider-Man was definitely huge. The whole reason I went to California, I wanted to make the Spider-Man movie. I wanted to direct the Spider-Man movie. That was my goal. And now I don't know, there's been 20 of them and I haven't directed any of them. So it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm never going to get to do that. But I had even written my own version of a Spider-Man movie. I had written to Stan Lee and actually got a call back. This was when I was still in college, and I like lost my mind that Stan Lee's office was calling me. I guess he must have been hurting pretty much back then in the late 80s, early 90s was not a high point for Marvel. For
Right.
him to actually call someone who just randomly sent him his idea for a Spider-Man movie. um, but yeah, like working so Hollow Man, let's see. I was staff at Modern Video Film, and at one point I switched to working during the day for Modern Video Film. And at night, this would have been the late 90s, 96, 97. At night, I was working, I'd do freelance work. So I know I worked on some, what's that? Wow, dude, look like a lady.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
No, the band.
Oh, God, what is the name of the band?
I want to say Axl Rose, but that's Aerosmith.
There you go.
I worked on some Aerosmith commercial, or not commercial, video doing electricity. I started to, because we'd have freelancers come through Modern Video Film, and then they would recommend us to some other places. So I started freelancing at night, and I work all day and then go work some more at night, just to get the experience, work on other shows, I worked on Charmed, the first version of the Charmed TV show. Just working at different facilities. And then eventually I had built up enough of a reel, because at that point, I started making reels, and I'd have like a DVD, like we had VHS tapes we'd give to people. And then eventually we burn it onto, like you were saying, CDs, we burn it onto DVDs and hand that out to people. I did go to ILM, and just nothing happened with ILM. And that was before they did the prequels of Star Wars. I was trying to get into ILM. I wasn't able to do that. And then I got into Sony ImageWorks. So that may have been, no, because we did work on a couple of movies at Modern Video Film, but we weren't known for movies. It was just, that's when movies started like, well, some of these TV guys are pretty good, and they're a lot less expensive than the movie guys. So let's give them a chance. So I worked on Simon Birch and Double Team, which was Dennis Rodman's first and only movie, maybe. I don't know if he made any other movies than Double Team. But getting in at Sony ImageWorks was my first foray into a giant visual effects company doing, A-list movies. So Hollow Man was the first, like a blockbuster kind of a movie that I worked on. And I was a freelancer. I quit my job at Modern Video Film, just went freelance only. And I worked a bunch through the 90s and the 10s in Hollywood, just going to different facilities, working on big movies. I would come back to Sony again and again and again when they'd have different projects come up. One of the Power Ranger guys who had left, he was working for a company called Arnson Communication, and they would do the cinematics for Electronic Arts, the video game maker, for the E3 convention. So they were basically making movies, like a 3-minute movie to show at E3 for Electronic Arts. So I started working for them as well as a creative director. So I started making the stories that would be in what was presented on screen. That was really cool. And that's like back when, like, I would go to Digital Domain as a freelance artist, and then I'd show up again as a creative director, and then I'm telling Digital Domain what to do. Like, I'm on the client side now. Like, hey, this is really cool. Hey,
Right.
they're giving me a fruit basket of stuff, Like, this is totally different than when I'm sitting in a dark room doing compositing, for them. So, so all that stuff was great. Like working on, like the Peter Pan movie. There was a 2004 Peter Pan. That was a really good movie, and I thought we did awesome effects, and the movie was great. Mark Stetson, that was the first time I met him. He was a model maker. He blew me away because of True Lies.
Hmm.
He made the models, the bridge at the end when they blow up the van and the van does the backflip on the bridge blows up. He made that model. And that model looks so good. And his name stuck in my head like, oh, Mark Stetson, he's awesome. He did Fifth Element. And so then I worked on a movie and Mark Stetson sitting next to me telling me what to do. Like, I want this and that and blah, blah. I'm like, it's Mark Stetson. It's like, I want to give him a kiss. He's so cool. So, you just got to like, you can't geek out too much. You got to take it easy. That was cool. And then like later I saw him somewhere else and he's like, oh, hey, Rick. And I'm like, Mark Stetson knows my name. I can't believe it. That's incredible. Like working at Sony Ghost Rider, that was sort of fun. It was neat to see Sam Raimi, walking around. And I had one big conversation with Sam Raimi where I ran into him on the lot, super nice guy, pretended to remember me from an earlier time when I saw him at a comic book convention. But it was awesome. It was the greatest thing. I'm a huge fan of Nicolas Cage on Ghost Rider. He was so excited to be in the movie that to be Johnny Blaze. He came around to thank people at ImageWorks for working on his movie. He just kind of like walking around, just like if anyone was around, he's like, "Hey, I'm Nicolas Cage. Thanks for working. Thanks for making the movie look good. I appreciate the work." Like, whoa, he's just a nerd. He's a nerd. Like he's one of us, but he just became a movie star. That's the difference. He's one of us, but a movie star.
That sounds like a lot of the stories I heard about him on behind.
He can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. He's such a nice fella.
Wow. Now you're so big in VFX. Like I'm sure you will just go out with your family and watch movies or shows, and you'll see other people's work, and you're just sitting there like, I could have did a better job than that. What are some visual effects mistakes in big budget movies that you have seen that keep you up at night?
Oh my gosh. We put someone on the spot, maybe. Let's see. The first thing that comes to mind for really bad visual effects that shouldn't have been bad, but like I couldn't figure out why they were so bad. I remember seeing Daredevil in the movie theater. And there were shots where something shot on film has grain. And even when there's nothing happening, like this little part of the frame right here, you just see a little bit of dancing.
Right.
If it's really big on a screen in front of you. There were composites where there were parts of the plate that had no grain. They didn't regrain it. It was terrible. Like, whoa, it's like, this is a tent. What are you doing? This is awful. So there were some really bad composites. Bad composites bummed me out. Like seeing, and this is a famous one, comes to mind is Endgame, where I don't know. I mean, it's inexcusable. The Hulk, when he's in the Hulkbuster suit, he's like, "Oh, you're so screwed now," and like the lighting of his head doesn't match anything in the scene. And it just looks like it's just been stuck on. It's terrible. And everything, there's so many other things in that movie that are gorgeous. And then they couldn't get that right. And it's like, oh my gosh, the fact that Marvel has so much money to spend and the Russo brothers have so much power, and they couldn't see that it's so bad. We should get Mark Ruffalo to come back in and light him properly and just reshoot this one line. And it will help the movie tremendously, but they just didn't do it. And you don't know, like, did that final composite get outsourced to somewhere else? Like someone does the CG, someone else does the 2D compositing of Mark Ruffalo into it. Maybe someone new in visual effects did it and it's terrible. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's the best we can do because we had to deliver it 3 days ago and we're still not done. So it's just got to ship, and people are like this when they're, reviewing it. I don't know. Or maybe someone thought, yeah, that looks great. Because a lot of people, to say you're a visual effects supervisor, if you just say the words and enough people believe it, it can be true. Like there's a lot of Hollywood that works that way. You just have the confidence to say you are something, you can be that something, because it's not like building a car where it's like, hey, I made this Honda Prelude, and it
Right.
runs. Look at that. It's like, hey, I've done visual effects before, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe you're good, maybe you aren't. Maybe you're real. You worked on, like, if this is the frame, maybe you worked on a little piece here, but you're showing something and pretending you did the whole thing. Like, you can get by. And a lot of people, I know people who are no good, who have Emmys just because they're able to talk their way into it. So it's, you just never know how something that's that bad got through in the movie. It's just amazing. I'm trying to think recently. I mean, I remember seeing Ford versus Ferrari. I thought that was an excellent movie. There are some shots that they're like, it's okay. But the story's good enough. I don't care. If something isn't perfect, it's like, if I can see something's an effect, it's like, okay, I could, if I like your story, if I like where you're taking me, I'm fine. I can just be like, yep, I can see that effect, but it doesn't take me out of the movie so much. Um, I just saw The Legend of Ochi, which is a cute little quiet movie. It's not a huge blockbuster, but it has a lot of puppetry in it. And I love puppets. The puppets are great. It's awesome. There's a couple of comps that are they're a little iffy, but I didn't care. It wasn't like, oh, that's terrible. Like the whole thing with Mark Ruffalo being bad in Endgame, it's Endgame. There's no reason to have a bad effect in there. So
True.
that makes me angry. It's like, how did this get by? But like in Ochi, if something isn't quite right, if like the way it even started with like there's a matte painting of an island, and I'm thinking that looks really painterly. Like, is that the look? Are we going for like this is a storybook? Are you saying this is a storybook movie? Or was that supposed to look real? Like I couldn't tell what the intention of it was, which way it was going. And then later I saw that the director did the matte paintings. And it's like, okay, so maybe it was a stylistic choice. That's one thing. Maybe because he's the director, no one wanted to tell him this doesn't look quite real.
Mm.
I don't know which one it is, but it was fine. Like it didn't, the first one took me out right away because I'm like, well, wait, that's fake, but it looks like it's trying to be real. I know it's like, I didn't know the feeling of the movie enough, but then later there's other matte paintings in the movie that look like matte paintings, but they were fine because I'm like, I'm in your story. I'm totally buying your story. That doesn't bother me.
Mm. Gotcha. Now let me flip the question on its head.
Yeah.
Are there any VFX shots that you've seen that you're like, oh my God, I need to go back to school so I can learn how to do this?
No, I think I'm too old to care. I don't care. I want to go back to school. I've seen a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, it just blows me away. It's so cool. But like all the simulations of like, I remember when debris was a difficult thing in movies
Mm.
and CG move, like doing CG debris. And the first big breakthrough that I saw was in the Incredible Hulk trailer, where the front of a house blows out because the Hulk's like in the living room and he breaks through and all this debris goes, and it was CG debris and it looked really good. And I was like, whoa, that is a huge step forward.
Mm.
That's really cool. That's going to change a lot of things. That's really, really good stuff. But because it's all in that respect, it's all computer generated, that it's a 3D world. I feel like I know I know the idea of how it's done. I don't know how it's done. I don't know which buttons you'd press, but it's like, yeah, it's just done in a computer. Like I think, oh, it's just done in a computer. Like hit enough buttons, you can make that happen. So I'm interested in like what can I touch? Like what can like I want to shoot something that there's some real element and some hand-drawn element. I like that. Or if it's like if I was going to be in the chair behind you, if I was going to pop up stick my head out behind you, like I find that more interesting. Like making something like that work, I find that more interesting than all my solution is just inside the computer.
Right. No,
And
I understand that.
there's no real photography going on. So I've seen it, I appreciate it. If I were interested in it, I feel like I could pursue that as well, but I just find that I'm not that interested. It's like, eh. Now, if you blew up a house and it's a little model or even a big model that you blew up, oh, that's super cool.
Right.
But, when it's like, oh, yeah, okay, there's another water simulation. Yeah, it looks great. It looks real. It looks like real water. 100% convincing that it's real water. I don't care.
Oh wow, that's fascinating. I do remember when CGI got so good that like particles, like things like water making fire and having those things look realistic are really hard to master to do, especially in CGI, VFX, video games. It's all hard, but technology has gotten there and we can make some really good realistic shots.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah. No, people can make really great, and even, like you were saying, explosions. There was a time where everything was an element. You'd have an explosion element and you'd put it. I'd even recognize some elements in some films of like, oh yeah, I've used that one too. I know what that is. But then with the computer being able to make explosions, to see that grow and that become more realistic to the point where, oh yeah, that's 100% convincing. That's really cool. I'm still not interested in doing it because it's like, I'd rather blow something up.
Right. I think it's just easier to just go film you blowing something up versus you spending hours in the computer and like, oh, this little piece of debris looks just right. No, just go blow something up. Like, I'm sorry, practical effects are just like my jam. If you can make it look right in the camera first, not only is everybody on set going to be amazed because they got to work on something so cool like that, like explosions and car crashes and fight scenes. I love like those type of shots versus we're just gonna CGI the whole thing and it's gonna look bad. That's cool. This was fun time nerding out with you.
Awesome.
Before we go, I must ask, with the recent announcements of the reboot of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series or Power Rangers as a whole, and them doing a new look, if you got the phone call to come do VFX for the new season of Power Rangers on Disney Plus, would you take that call or would you be like, nah?
I'll talk to anybody. Yeah, I'd talk to them, but they'd be like, well, do I have to go somewhere? Can I do it from my garage? Like, what are we doing? Are we shooting in Georgia or are we?
Gotcha. No, I understand.
I become very comfortable working from I'm in my home office.
Right.
And I've become so comfortable working here. It's like if someone were to call me and say, hey, I got this Spider-Man movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go anywhere, I'll do anything to direct Spider-Man movie. But if it's not that, it's like I'm kind of comfortable. Can I do it from here? Is that okay? But I have worked recently at a place where I would go into the office like once a week or once every 2 weeks, and it was really nice working with other humans. Like seeing a person face to face is really cool.
Yeah, it has.
I forgot how much I enjoy people. This is really nice. Which is like one of the things that convention is good for, to actually see people face to face and talk to them and shake their hand. Love it. Love that stuff.
Right. Since you brought up conventions, we will see each other again at RangerStop Pop later this week, but it's weeks from now. What is your favorite part about attending Power Ranger conventions and being recognized for being the VFX guy, even though you're just one of many?
I'm one of them. Yep. You know what? It is really, really nice. Just the love that people have for something that you've been a part of. The fact that it's touched so many people. Like I love hearing from fans, what they like about it, what their favorite thing was. To get that kind of recognition. Usually as a visual effects artist, you get no recognition. No one knows who you are. Working in a dark room, you're like scribbling away, you're doing zillions of hours, and something gets done, and your only thanks is, well, here's more work that needs to get done right away.
Right.
So to actually talk to people who are interested, like it's like, you're interested in what I've done? Like that's such a weird thing. Because my kids aren't interested in what I've done. My wife doesn't want to hear any more stories about it. But like so it's really neat. It's really neat to be able to share stories like we just did. And you're actually interested in it. It's like, well, that's fun. That's totally fun.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. And hopefully the internet can keep this a secret. I am almost 38 years old, and I still hop around my house trying to teleport and morph into a Power Ranger, or like I have like the Megazord figures, or I have like little figures, and I'm like, Mastodon, Lion, Thunderzord, Power Rangers, this bolt of lightning come out of nowhere. I still do that.
That's
Don't
awesome.
tell no one though. That's our
No, when we're together at RangerStop, we will shoot something and I will do a teleport for you. I will make you teleport the same way we used to do for the show.
Oh wow! Oh my
That.
god! I can't wait! I can't wait!
So think about where you want to be going and where you want to be landing. All right,
Um,
and we'll make it happen.
I will really have to think about that.
Yeah.
So many possibilities. But again, since you'll be at Ranger Stop and Pop, they just announced it before we did this interview.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be doing something special on day 0. Let's talk about that for a little bit before we head out.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, we can finally say it. So Thursday, the day before Ranger Stop, which they're now calling day 0, we will be doing a live episode of my Behind the Power TV show, my YouTube show that I think we have 5 or 6 episodes out right now. We owe you guys a few episodes. We haven't had a new one this year yet. So we got to get another episode out soon. And we'll be shooting a live episode. I'll have a special Red Ranger guest with me. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about yet. We always got to find a way to tie it into the visual effects that I do with what's happened in, that Rangers season. Because there are so many more Rangers than when I worked on the show.
Right.
There were only a handful back then. So yeah, it'll be a good time. So we'll have an audience. We'll be able to do live question and answer period. And maybe we'll do a couple of teleports for an episode or for a panel.
That will be so cool. And on top of that, immediately after your live Behind the Power episode will be trivia night sponsored by Anime Secrets Blerdography and Carnell Holly Pictures. I'm going to be there with you, and we might have a special VFX guest show up and ask you guys a couple of questions. We'll be doing from 8 to 10 p.m. Again, day 0, the day before the official con start, and I cannot wait. I am tired of coming up with questions, but I cannot wait. I got some stuff for you. I got some stuff to stump everybody else.
Awesome.
And this is just going to be amazing.
It's going to be a good time for sure.
Right. Before we go, I just have to ask you, like, you've gotten, not only you work with Power Rangers behind the scenes making the visuals of Power Rangers, but because of these conventions, you've actually gotten to meet some of the castmates and the cast members. You work directly with Karen Ashley and Nakia Baris, with RSP and Mikey with I'm sure you go down to Orlando too. What is it like actually meeting the stars from the show? And do have any of them like, oh, you're Rick Shick, you're the guy that made me do all that cool stuff?
Yeah, no, there's no memory of me for them whatsoever. It is funny because I do have a picture of me and Karen at the premiere that we actually took a picture together. So I guess I had worked up enough courage to talk to a Power Ranger and ask for a picture, which is hilarious. So it's like, yeah, like we didn't know each other, but so I showed her, 2 years ago or whatever. My first one, I'm like, here's a picture of you and me. And she's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, I now know who you are. But you know what? The Rangers that I've met have been nothing but nice to me. It's been a good time. Jack Guzman, that dude is hilarious.
Yes.
We haven't had him on the show yet, but we will. But he's awesome. Jessica Ray's super nice. There's just so many great people that I had no clue, and they didn't know what I did. I didn't know anything about them. And then we're, actually talking about this stuff now. So it's fun.
That's fun. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet if they want to follow you?
Oh, yeah. So behindthepower.com will take you to Behind the Power VFX, our YouTube channel. I have my own website is just rickshick.com. And that's where I have my resume, my reel. I have some older behind the scenes stuff. I have some of my non-film related artwork that I've worked on. I used to have a company called Party Rex, where I had a giant T-Rex costume, what was it? 8 feet tall, 13-foot long costume that I'd stomp around in, go to birthday parties and stuff. That was so much fun. We did great Halloweens, but that's over now. I sold it. So I'm just getting too old to run around in a dinosaur costume anymore. But that's been fun for a lot of years. But yeah, just rickshick.com. Just look up rickshick.com on the internet, or just look up Rick Shick on the internet and you'll see pictures of me, and then click whatever.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about Behind the Power, your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So before I even knew about the conventions, I have a library of those giant blue tapes I was telling you about that I have a bunch of my previous work archived on. And it's, of course, started with Power Rangers. I wish I'd started it earlier. So it's like maybe halfway through my Power Ranger career, I have a lot of behind the scenes footage that I've now digitized, and I'm going through DaVinci and editing it and putting it together in like little bite-sized packages so that we can talk about visual effects. So I have a lot of my career on these old tapes, and Behind the Power is we're going through the visual effects that I've worked on, and occasionally we have, and it seems more frequently than not at this point, we have guest rangers that'll come on, and we'll talk about henchmen from their season versus the henchmen that I developed, what their effect would look like when they appear and disappear. So, and then we have a toy expert, talking to other visual effects people. So we're just growing and growing with the people that we're able to have conversations with as we go through my career. And at some point, I'll exhaust all the Power Rangers stuff. I'll exhaust Beetleborgs. I mean, we can do episodes and episodes and episodes of Beetleborgs. I've got VR Troopers. I've got Masked Rider. I have some of my Spider-Man stuff. I think we have an episode in the works on some of the Spider-Man stuff, and my failed attempt at helping them decide how Peter Parker should swing, because I used to swing on the traveling rings in Santa Monica. So I made a tape for them, but all it did was scare them away. But always try, always make an effort, because if you don't try, you don't know. So I knew it was the wrong thing to do, apparently.
Gotcha.
I still got to work on the later Spider-Man movies. So yeah, we'll just be having conversations with a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you've never seen before of these different movies and TV shows. Gotcha.
Rick, thank you so much for coming on. Blerdkast and just nerding out with me about VFX and productions and telling your stories. Again, I can listen to you for hours. Like, we can just sit at the con and you just tell me stories. I'm gonna sit there, crisscross applesauce style, and just like a 6-year-old, just not even blink. I swear to God, we're gonna have so much fun at RSP. But thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing, and
yeah, happy to do it.
Again, not only have you touched my life and just what I chose to do as a career and just help me make me a nerd, visually, awesome. You're the reason why I'm in the Power Rangers. Awesome. And why I do camera work and things like that. So just thank you. And for everybody else that you have affected and touched, I'm sure they want to thank you so much as well. Thank you. I can't say
thanks for I appreciate all of it. That is incredible. It's incredible to hear. Love hearing it. That is great. It really touches me. It really does.
Gotcha. But for everybody else, this has been Blerdkast. You can find Blerdkast everywhere you listen to your podcasts and watch them, on YouTube, Spotify, Google Music, Apple Music, and so many other places. And don't forget, you can subscribe to Blerdography, my YouTube channel, where I will be at Ranger Pop Insta. Oh, there I go again. Karen's not gonna like that.
Oh, Ranger Pop and stuff. I did that. I have to redo my promo video because I said that wrong.
Oh yeah, you might want to do that because Karen's not going to be happy. But hold on, let me get back. But you can subscribe to Blerdography, where I will be at RangerStop Pop with Rick Shick all weekend long. You can follow me there for any lives that I might do, because I might be planning a couple lives or two, as well as my vlogs and other interviews that I'll be doing as press. And I have so much more stuff coming up. But before we get to all that, MomoCon's the next thing you'll see Blerdography at. But thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.
Awesome. Later, man.